You say you want it. You say you're all in. You tell yourself you're giving it everything you've got. But let me ask you something. Do your results match that belief? Because life has a funny way of exposing the truth. It doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't reward effort that only lives in your imagination. It rewards action. It rewards follow through. And most of all, it rewards honesty with yourself, the brutal kind. The kind that stings, the kind that makes you sit alone with your thoughts and say, I'm not who I say I am right now. The real reason you're not winning, it's not because your strategy is broken. It's not because you need another course or a better mentor or more followers or a different opportunity. It's because you're lying to yourself about the work you're putting in. You want to be elite, but you're training like you're average. You want to lead, but you haven't even mastered leading yourself. You say you're all in, but you've still got one foot out the door just in case it gets too hard. That little voice in your head that keeps whispering, I'm doing enough. You've been letting it win for far too long. You've been letting comfort masquerade as commitment. You've confused exhaustion with execution. Just because you're tired doesn't mean you worked hard. Just because you were busy doesn't mean you were productive. There's a difference between movement and progress, and deep down you know it. You know when you scroll for 30 minutes and then tell yourself you needed a break. You know when you say you're researching, but you're really procrastinating. You know when you put something off till tomorrow because it wasn't urgent, but the truth is, you just didn't feel like doing it today. That voice inside you knows, and you can't lie to that voice. You can't fake greatness. You can't cheat the grind. The work you don't do isn't invisible. It's obvious in your results. There's a gap between who you are and who you could be, and that gap isn't filled with talent, money, or luck. It's filled with work, real, consistent, inconvenient, unsexy work, the kind of work that doesn't get posted on social media, the kind of work that happens early in the morning or late at night when no one's clapping for you. The kind of work that builds a quiet confidence because you know you're doing what others won't. But here's what most people don't want to hear. Working hard when you feel motivated is easy. That's not special. Everyone works hard when they feel inspired. The separator is what you do when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when everything in you wants to quit. That's where winning lives. That's where champions are made, not on game day, but in the empty gym, in the lonely mornings, in the nights where you could have gone out, but stayed in to build your dream instead. Let me ask you a question that might make you uncomfortable. What have you actually earned with the effort you've put in? What result has your current level of commitment produced? Because if you're not where you want to be, it's not a mystery. It's not bad luck. It's not a lack of opportunity. It's not the economy. It's not your strategy. It's you. It's your habits. It's your standards. It's the fact that you've been lying to yourself over and over again, convincing yourself you're working harder than you are. And look, I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to wake you up, because you're better than this. You were born for more than just surviving the day. You were built to build something. You were wired to create, to stretch, to push, to fight. You've got more in the tank. You just stopped reaching for it. You've got a second gear, but you've settled into neutral because it's easier, it's safer. But safe never builds anything significant. What if you stopped lying to yourself for one day? What if you looked at your calendar, your habits, your routines, and told the truth? What would you see? Would you see excellence? Would you see intention? Or would you see gaps? Would you see moments where you let emotion override execution? Would you see days you showed up halfway when you promised yourself you'd go all in? That truth might hurt, it might sting, but that pain, that's the birthplace of greatness. That's where change begins. Because once you own it, once you stop blaming everything else and take a good, honest look at your effort, you take back control. You can't fix what you won't face, but once you face it, you can change everything. You don't need a new plan. You need a new level of honesty. You don't need to do more things. You need to do the right things with full commitment. The way you brush your teeth every day without needing motivation. That's how you need to treat your goals, non-negotiable, every single day, rain or shine, feel like it or not. Some of you are 3 feet from gold, but you keep quitting because it doesn't look like it's working. You keep planting seeds but walking away before the harvest. Why? Because you're not seeing results fast enough, because it's hard, because it's lonely. But let me tell you something, of course it's hard. Of course it takes time. You think greatness comes at a discount. You think success shows up just because you decided you wanted it. There are thousands of people with the same goals you have, the same dreams, the same vision. What separates them? It's not their strategies. It's their standards, their consistency, their refusal to lie to themselves, their ability to stay disciplined when it's boring, when it's hard, when it's slow. That's the game. That's the real reason they win, and the real reason you're not winning yet. You've got to raise your standard. You've got to demand more of yourself. No more kinda trying. No more we'll see. No more showing up with a plan B in your back pocket just in case you don't feel like it. The only people who win are the ones who commit, fully, relentlessly, without exception. You don't get the luxury of comfort and success. You have to choose, and the ones who choose discomfort now get to live in freedom later. The ones who keep choosing comfort now, they stay stuck. So here's what you do from this moment forward: audit yourself. Get real about where your time is going. Get real about where your effort is going. Start tracking your days like your life depends on it, because it does. Your future is being built one small decision at a time. Your legacy isn't waiting for you at the finish line. It's being written in the dark, unglamorous moments when you decide to either honor your word or break it. You're not losing because you're not capable. You're losing because you keep pretending you're working harder than you are. You're not stuck because of your circumstances. You're stuck because of your excuses. And until you own that, you're going to keep repeating the same cycle, hoping for a different outcome. But the moment you stop lying to yourself, everything changes. Because once you tell the truth, you unlock your power. You stop negotiating with your goals. You stop cutting deals with your future. You stop letting your feelings control your behavior. And that's when momentum kicks in. That's when confidence builds. That's when people around you start noticing something's different about you. You want to win, then stop playing halfway. Stop talking about your dream like it's some distant thing that's going to arrive by luck. Start acting like someone who deserves it. Start showing up like someone who earns it. Because at the end of the day, the game isn't complicated. It's just hard. And most people aren't willing to do hard for long enough. But you're not most people. You wouldn't be here if you were. You've got a fire inside you. But you've been pouring water on it with your own lies. So today you stop. Today you fan that flame. Today you get honest about where you've been slacking. And then you do something about it. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because if not now, when, if not you, who, your family's watching, your future's waiting. The world needs the version of you that doesn't make excuses. The version of you that leads with truth. The version of you that puts in the real work, not just when it's convenient, but when it matters. And right now, it matters more than ever. The reason you're not winning isn't your strategy. It's your honesty. Fix that, and you'll fix everything. Everyone's disciplined when someone's watching. Everyone's focused when the lights are on. Everyone performs when the crowd's clapping and the room is full. But the question that separates the winners from the watchers isn't how hard you go when the world is watching. It's how you act when no one is. That's the difference. That's the line. That's the painful truth most people don't want to face. The real reason you're not where you want to be isn't because you don't know enough or you don't want it bad enough. It's because your discipline disappears the moment you're left alone. You tell yourself you're committed, but your actions don't match your words when the accountability fades. You set goals, you make plans, you write affirmations, but when it's just you and that quiet moment where discipline is required, you fall off and you justify it. You tell yourself, it's just one time, or I'll get back on track tomorrow, or I've been doing pretty good lately. But that's the lie that keeps you stuck. That's the internal negotiation that kills momentum. That's the pattern that builds a reputation in your own mind that says, I don't finish, I don't follow through. And that's what most people never realize. Your discipline isn't just about checking a box. It's about who you're becoming in the dark. It's about building trust with yourself. Because the more often you break your own standards when nobody's watching, the more you chip away at your own identity. And eventually, you stop believing in you. You stop trusting yourself to finish what you start. And if you can't trust you, why would anyone else? The truth is, you don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your discipline. You fall to the level of your daily choices when the pressure is gone, when the crowd goes home, when it's late at night and you're tired, when it's early morning and your alarm is screaming, but no one would know if you hit snooze. That's the moment, that's the testing ground, that's where legacies are built or lost. You keep thinking you need more motivation. You keep scrolling hoping for a video to light you up. But discipline doesn't come from motivation. It comes from commitment, a decision, a choice made once and honored 1,000 times. It comes from saying, I don't care how I feel. I care what I said I would do. The champions you admire aren't the most motivated. They're the most disciplined. They don't rely on feeling ready. They're anchored in identity. They don't need to feel like doing it because they've already decided, this is who I am. But you're still trying to feel your way into action. You're still waiting for the perfect conditions. You're still letting your emotions control your execution. And that's why you haven't broken through yet. That's why you keep starting and stopping. That's why your life feels like a treadmill, moving fast but going nowhere. Because you show up when it's easy and fall off when it's hard, and life doesn't reward that. Life rewards the person who shows up regardless. There are no secrets. There are no shortcuts. There's only doing what you said you'd do when no one's clapping for you. Only showing up again and again until your identity starts to shift. Until your subconscious starts to believe, this is just what I do now. You don't need a new system. You need new standards. You need to stop trying to be held accountable by the world and start being held accountable by your vision, by the future version of you who's counting on your discipline right now. What's destroying your dream isn't lack of opportunity, it's lack of consistency. You want the result without becoming the kind of person who earns it. And that kind of person, they do the work when it's boring. They stay locked in when it's slow. They take the small, thankless steps over and over until they look up and realize, I became the one who follows through. Look around, look at your life. Everything in it is a reflection of your standards. If your bank account is low, if your health is off, if your relationships feel weak, it's not the world's fault. It's not bad timing. It's not a lack of resources. It's your discipline in private. It's how often you took the easy road when no one would have known if you did. That's the part you can't fake. That's the part you can't outsource. You've got dreams that you haven't met, not because you're not worthy, but because you keep breaking promises to yourself when no one's there to stop you. Every time you skip the workout, delay the call, avoid the hard conversation, or stay in bed instead of getting up early, you're not just delaying progress. You're proving to yourself that you're not serious. And that identity becomes a cage, because once your mind starts to believe that you're someone who doesn't finish, that belief controls your behavior, not your goals, not your vision, your beliefs. So how do you break it? You stop waiting for someone to watch. You stop needing accountability. You stop performing for applause. You start building discipline in the shadows, in the quiet, in the early mornings when the world is asleep. In the nights when you could Netflix your way out of discomfort. But you choose growth instead. You start stacking wins that no one sees, and one day they'll ask how you did it. They'll call you lucky. They'll say it happened fast, but you'll know the truth. It happened when no one was looking. Discipline is lonely. It's uncomfortable. It's inconvenient, but it's always worth it. Because it's the foundation of everything you want. You think freedom comes from ease. It doesn't. Freedom comes from discipline, from self-respect, from knowing you can trust yourself to execute. When you build that, no one can take it from you. You become unstoppable, not because you never fall, but because you never stay down. You become powerful, not because you're loud, but because your actions speak for you. You become dangerous, not to others, but to doubt, to fear, to the part of you that used to flinch at difficulty. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about standards. It's about doing what's necessary even when it's annoying, even when it's inconvenient. It's about becoming the person who acts according to the future they're building, not the mood they're in today. Most people don't fail because of a lack of opportunity. They fail because they keep negotiating with their excuses. They keep giving in to the same pattern. I'll do it later. I'll do it tomorrow. It's just one day. And that day becomes a week. That week becomes a habit, and that habit becomes a life. But you can choose different. Right now, you can say no more. You can draw the line and declare that your standards will no longer be dictated by feelings, but by purpose. You can become the person who shows up no matter what, the one who doesn't need external pressure to do internal work, the one who understands that how you do anything is how you do everything. Do you want to know what separates the successful from the stuck? It's not strategy, it's not talent, it's not intelligence, it's discipline. When no one's watching, that's the common thread, that's the code, that's the thing they all have in common. While others are waiting for motivation, they're executing routines. While others are wondering what went wrong, they're stacking consistent, private victories that become public results. So if you're sitting there wondering why it's not working yet, look at your off days. Look at the gaps between the moments. Look at the time where no one held you to it. Did you still show up? That's your answer. That's your real scoreboard. Not what you do when you're hyped up, but what you do when you feel nothing. When it's cold, when it's dark, when no one sees, because that's when your future is being built. That's when the breakthrough is coming together, not in the grand moments, but in the small ones you think don't matter. They do, they all do, and let me tell you, your future self is watching. That version of you you've been dreaming of. The stronger, bolder, richer, more confident version. They're not impressed by your plans. They're waiting to see your discipline. They're watching to see if you'll fight through the resistance. They're wondering if you'll finally stop being the person who starts and stops, and become the one who starts and stays. That's who you're meant to be, and when that version of you arrives, when the world finally sees what you've been building in silence, they won't believe it happened in the shadows, but you'll know it was born in the early mornings. In the skipped parties, in the lonely workouts, in the late nights of focused effort when no one was coming to save you, and you chose to save yourself. That's discipline, that's power, that's why you win. And that is the real reason you aren't winning right now. Not because you don't want it, not because you're broken, but because your discipline has been conditional. Make it unconditional, and you become unstoppable. You're not stuck because you don't know enough. You're not behind because you're uninformed. You're not failing because the tools don't exist. In fact, you have more knowledge, more resources, and more access than any generation in history. You've got thousands of free videos at your fingertips. You've got books on every topic. You've got experts in your pocket, courses you've bookmarked, strategies you've studied, podcasts you binge daily. You know all the buzzwords. You've highlighted the quotes. You've screenshotted the blueprints, but you haven't moved. You haven't built. You haven't executed, because the truth is, you're addicted to information, not implementation. And it's killing your potential. You think reading another book will get you there. You think watching one more video will suddenly flip the switch. You believe if you could just gather a little more data, hear one more story, find that one secret hack, then finally you'll be ready. But what you don't realize is that this addiction to learning without applying is the exact thing holding you back. You're mistaking consumption for progress. You've confused being busy with being effective. And that's why you feel exhausted but empty. That's why you feel motivated for a moment and then sink right back into frustration. Because deep down you know, you're not doing the thing, you're studying the thing. You're watching others do it. You're surrounding yourself with success, but not stepping into it. You've become a student of success, not a participant, and success doesn't reward students, it rewards doers. It rewards the ones who act without having every answer, the ones who move while still afraid, the ones who take the messy step, who fall forward, who build while they learn instead of learning forever without building. Because the truth is, you don't need more information. You need more execution. You need to move. You need to do something uncomfortable. You need to stop collecting tools and start using them. Every time you delay implementation, you reinforce a belief that you're not ready, that you're not capable, that you're not good enough, and the more you reinforce that belief, the more stuck you feel, but you're not stuck. You're just scared, scared to fail, scared to look dumb, scared to launch something that doesn't work. And so instead of facing the fear, you hide behind learning. You tell yourself it's preparation, but it's procrastination in disguise. It's fear wearing the mask of productivity. It's comfort dressed up like discipline. And it's keeping you small. What if I told you that the very thing you're afraid of making a mistake, messing up, being seen as imperfect, is the exact doorway to growth? What if your next level doesn't come from knowing more, but from doing more with what you already know? What if your breakthrough is hiding behind that uncomfortable action you've been avoiding, because that's the truth? It's not in the book you haven't read yet. It's in the decision you haven't made. It's not in the podcast you saved for later. It's in the task you've delayed for weeks. It's not in the next mastermind or seminar or strategy session. It's in the work. The people winning aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who execute the most. They're not always smarter, but they're more committed to applying what they've learned. They don't need to know everything. They just need to move, to try, to start, and if it doesn't work, they adjust, they pivot, they learn by doing, not by watching. That's how momentum is built, not through passive knowledge, but through aggressive action. You've heard enough, you've learned enough, you've prepared enough. You've been in the waiting room of your destiny long enough. The doors are open, the game is on. But you're still standing on the sidelines, clipboard in hand, studying the players, taking notes, drawing up theories, while the real ones are sweating, falling, rising, and winning. You weren't created to be an observer. You were built to build, but building takes action, it takes movement, it takes courage to look stupid, to fail publicly, to say, I'm doing this, even when you feel unqualified. Every expert you admire once sucked. Every master you follow started messy. They didn't wait until they felt ready. They moved anyway, and the difference between them and you, they didn't let information become a prison. They used it as a launch pad. You've turned it into a waiting room, a hiding place. You keep saying, I'll start once I finish this program. I'll launch once I learn that tool. I'll post once I feel more confident. But confidence isn't built in silence. It's built in motion. It's built in reps. It's built in real experience, not imagined preparation. The reason you're not winning isn't because you don't have the right plan, it's because you haven't followed any plan with full commitment. You keep switching strategies. You keep chasing shortcuts. You keep watching what everyone else is doing instead of getting locked in on what you are called to do. And as long as you keep consuming without creating, learning without launching, studying without stepping, you will stay right where you are. But what if today is the day you break that pattern? What if you decided right now to stop feeding the addiction to information and start feeding your mission? What if you picked one thing you've learned and implemented it with everything you've got? What if you committed to messy progress over perfect knowledge? You'd be shocked at how fast things start to move. You'd be stunned at how much you already know, how ready you already are, how powerful you become when you start trusting yourself more than your fear. The truth is, you don't have a learning problem. You have a permission problem. You're waiting for someone to say you're ready now. But no one's coming. No one is going to knock on your door and hand you your destiny. You've got to take it. You've got to decide that you're tired of standing in the same place, watching others pass you by, not because they're better, but because they're doing it. You've got to give yourself permission to be imperfect, to fall, to embarrass yourself, to get back up and keep going. Because there's nothing noble about knowing everything and doing nothing. There's no trophy for potential. There's no award for being the most informed person who never took the leap. The only way to win is to do the thing. To build, to launch, to go live, to send the message, to make the call, to pitch the idea, to put your name on something even if it's not perfect. especially if it's not perfect. That's where the magic is. That's where the power lies, and once you do that, once you feel the rush of doing instead of watching, you'll never go back. You'll realize the growth isn't in the book, it's in the action that book inspired. You'll realize the value of a course isn't in the videos, it's in the uncomfortable execution you were pushed into. You'll realize the only thing you were missing wasn't knowledge, it was courage, and the best part, you already have it, it's in you. Right now, buried beneath the hesitation, underneath the excuses, behind the false belief that you're not ready. You are. You're ready. You've always been ready. You just needed to stop delaying and start delivering. So this is it. This is your line in the sand. This is the moment you go from addicted to information to obsessed with implementation, from passive learner to active leader, from one day to day one. Don't study another thing until you've acted on what you already know. Don't open another tab until you've closed the gap between knowing and doing, because that's the real separator. That's the reason they're winning and you're not. Not because they're smarter, but because they start. You say you want greatness. You say you want to be elite. You say you're tired of staying stuck in the same place, tired of being overlooked, tired of not having the life you know you were built for. But when it comes time to put in the real work, you flinch, you hesitate, you delay, not because you're not capable, not because you don't have time, not because you lack resources. It's because you're letting your feelings dictate your effort. And that's the trap. That's the invisible anchor holding you back. You think you're in control. You think you're disciplined, but you're still a slave to your emotions. You feel tired, so you skip the gym. You feel uninspired, so you don't write. You feel discouraged, so you don't show up. You feel anxious, so you stall. You feel lazy, so you choose comfort over progress. You've allowed your emotions to become the master of your destiny. And that's why you haven't broken through. Here's the raw truth. Your goals don't care how you feel. Your vision doesn't pause because you had a rough day. Your future doesn't get delayed because you were in a bad mood. The life you want, the one that lives in your dreams, the one that plays in your mind every night before you fall asleep. It requires a version of you who shows up regardless of emotion, who executes whether it's raining or sunny, whether you're tired or energized, whether you're excited or bored. Most people never get what they want out of life, not because they weren't talented, not because they weren't smart, not because they didn't have the opportunity, but because they only gave effort when it felt good. They let their feelings become the permission slip for their level of execution. They decided that if they didn't feel like it, then it wasn't the right time, and because of that, they never built the muscle of discipline. They never developed the resilience necessary to push through the days that didn't feel good. But those are the days that matter most, because the champions you admire, the ones dominating their space, they are not succeeding because every day is magical. They're not winning because they're always in the zone. They're winning because they've made a decision. I will not negotiate with my feelings. I will do the thing I said I'd do, even if I'm exhausted, even if I'm frustrated, even if I don't feel like it, because that's the price of greatness. That's the standard it demands. The truth is, most people live their lives chasing feelings. They wait until they feel ready, feel inspired, feel passionate. And then, only then, do they act. But feelings are liars. They're unreliable. They're like the weather, constantly changing, easily influenced, emotionally reactive. And if you're building your dream on the shaky ground of emotion, your foundation will crumble the first time things get hard. The first time life hits you with a storm. The first time motivation disappears. But if you want to build something unbreakable, if you want to build something legendary, you've got to be the kind of person who moves in spite of emotion. You've got to decide that your feelings are irrelevant to your performance. You've got to show up on the days that suck, on the days you want to quit, on the days your body hurts and your mind is heavy and your heart is uncertain. Those are the days you earn your growth. Those are the days you separate yourself from the pack, because anybody can work when they feel good. That doesn't make you special. That doesn't build legacy. What builds legacy is what you do when you feel nothing. You think that because it's hard, it means you're doing something wrong. You think that because it doesn't feel good, it means it's not for you. But that's the lie. That's the emotional filter you've been seeing life through. You've got to cut that out. You've got to operate from standards, not from states. Because if you only perform when it's easy, you'll never become who you were designed to be. Let me be clear. Your feelings are real, but they're not always true. Your feelings are valid, but they're not your guide. Your feelings deserve space, but they don't deserve control. You are not your feelings. You are your actions. And the actions you take on the worst days, when you're the least motivated, the least confident, the least inspired, those are the ones that define your character. You have to stop giving your feelings a vote. Stop asking them for permission. Stop checking in with your mood before you move. You don't owe your feelings anything. You owe your vision everything. And the more you condition yourself to act regardless of mood, the more powerful you become. Because now you're not dependent on the winds of inspiration. You're driven by commitment. You're powered by purpose. You're led by the vision of the future, not the emotion of the moment. You want to be a champion. Then act like one. Champions don't care how they feel. Champions don't need to be in the right mood. Champions don't need a pep talk. They just do the work, because the work is what they do. It's who they are. And that's the kind of identity you need to build. Not someone who tries to win, but someone who is a winner. Not someone who waits to feel ready, but someone who creates readiness by doing the work anyway. And this shift, this transformation, it happens the moment you stop needing to feel good to do good. The moment you say, whether I feel like it or not, I'm going to war for my future today. That's when the game changes. That's when momentum starts. That's when confidence builds. Not because everything's perfect, but because you're finally living in alignment with your standards, not your states. You want confidence. Stop waiting for it to show up. Earn it. Build it. You build confidence every time you honor your word when it's hard. Every time you do the thing when every cell in your body is screaming for comfort. Every time you push through fatigue, through doubt, through fear, and still show up. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you unshakable. That's what separates the elite from the average. And let's be real, you weren't made to be average. You didn't come this far just to give up when it got uncomfortable. You didn't survive everything you've survived just to let your feelings make decisions for your future. You're here for a reason. You've got breath in your lungs for a reason. And that reason is not to be a victim of mood swings. That reason is not to be led by temporary emotions. That reason is to build, to lead, to conquer. And that starts with mastering yourself. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself through pain. It's about committing to a purpose greater than your comfort. It's about loving your vision more than you love being in the right mood. It's about proving every single day that you are in control. Not your emotions, not your doubts, not your fears, you. So the next time you don't feel like it, do it anyway. The next time you want to take the day off, go even harder. The next time your feelings say, let's wait, move faster, because every time you override that emotion, you strengthen your identity. You teach your brain that you're the kind of person who follows through. And when that becomes who you are, there's not a force in this world that can stop you. You want to win. Stop negotiating with how you feel. Stop waiting to be in the mood. Start honoring your commitment. Start acting like your life depends on it, because it does. Your family's counting on you. Your future is counting on you. The world is counting on you to be what you said you'd be. And that doesn't happen when you feel like it. It happens when you decide to act regardless. This is where everything changes, right here, right now, when you finally realize that how you feel has nothing to do with who you are, that your effort isn't a reflection of your emotions. It's a reflection of your standard. And if your standard is excellence, then you execute regardless. If your standard is greatness, then you act like it on the best days and the worst. No more letting feelings run the show. No more giving your future over to momentary moods. From this point forward, your decisions are made by your destiny, not your discomfort. That's how champions think. That's how leaders move. That's how legacies are built. And that is the real reason you haven't been winning. Not because you're not good enough, not because the plan doesn't work, but because your emotions have been making decisions that your greatness was supposed to make. But now that ends. From this day forward, your future leads. Your feelings follow, and you rise, you execute, you win, you already know what to do, you know the one thing, the one move, the one habit, the one decision, that would change everything for you. It's not hiding. It's not some mystery. It's not something you haven't discovered yet. It's right in front of you. It's that thing you keep putting off, that one conversation you've avoided, that habit you haven't broken, that risk you haven't taken, that action you keep pushing to tomorrow because it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, terrifying, or uncertain. But here's the truth. That hard thing you're avoiding, that's the key. That's the door to everything you say you want. And until you face it, until you do the thing that scares you the most, you will stay stuck exactly where you are, and you know that. That's what's eating at you. That's what makes you restless at night. That's what weighs on you while you're scrolling through your phone, pretending you're just not ready. Because deep down, you know what the next level demands of you. It's not more information, it's not more planning, it's not another YouTube video or one more podcast or another 90-day vision board. It's action, brutal, bold, direct action, and not just any action. The kind of action you don't want to take. The kind that hurts, the kind that makes your heart race, the kind that makes your palms sweat, the kind you've been avoiding for weeks, months, maybe even years. And that's the real reason you're not winning. Not because you lack talent, not because you're not capable, but because you keep choosing easy when your future requires hard. You keep dancing around the issue, building a life that avoids your deepest fear instead of confronting it. You build systems around your comfort zone, you label procrastination as patience, you disguise fear as logic, you call inaction timing, but the truth is you're hiding. You've been hiding in the safe lane while pretending you're preparing for greatness. You want the rewards without the risk. You want the transformation without the pain. You want to step into your purpose without ever facing your pressure, but it doesn't work like that. Your next level is locked behind that door you won't walk through. You can decorate the hallway, you can camp in front of it, you can wait for someone to come unlock it for you, but until you do the hard thing, until you take that first painful step through it, you will stay exactly where you are. Maybe it's starting the business. Maybe it's finally walking away from the wrong people. Maybe it's telling the truth. Maybe it's forgiving someone who never said sorry. Maybe it's forgiving yourself. Maybe it's showing up publicly and letting the world see the real you. Maybe it's quitting the job. Maybe it's writing the book. Maybe it's making the call. Whatever it is, you already know. You just keep pushing it to tomorrow. And every time you do, every time you avoid it, you reinforce a dangerous message to yourself. That fear gets to win. You think you're waiting for the right moment, but the right moment is never coming. It doesn't exist. The perfect time isn't real. What's real is the pain of regret that builds every single day you postpone your purpose. What's real is the erosion of your confidence every time you choose safety over courage. And what's even more real, the opportunity cost, the cost of not doing that thing. You can't even measure it. It's the life you never live, the person you never become, the impact you never make, all because you wouldn't do the hard thing. Most people live their entire lives avoiding one or two key actions. They build workarounds. They develop habits of distraction. They create busyness to avoid the business of becoming. And they wonder why nothing changes. They wonder why life feels like a loop. It's because your life expands or contracts based on the level of challenge you're willing to embrace. You're not stuck. You're just standing still in front of the one door that actually opens. And here's the brutal truth. You are not being held back by circumstances or people or the market or bad luck. You're being held back by you, by your unwillingness to walk through pain, to embrace discomfort, to feel the fear and do it anyway. The hard thing is hard for a reason. It's supposed to be. That's where the transformation lives. That's where identity shifts. That's where you burn the old version of yourself and become someone stronger, someone sharper, someone unstoppable. It's not supposed to feel good. It's not supposed to be easy. If it was, everyone would do it. And that's exactly why most people don't. They never face themselves. They never confront the one thing that would actually set them free. They keep repainting the walls of their comfort zone, hoping it'll start to feel like progress. But paint doesn't change the structure, and comfort doesn't change your life, only courage does. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving anyway. It's doing the hard thing because you know what's on the other side is worth it, because you've lived in the shallow end long enough and you're finally ready to go deep, because you're done trading long-term greatness for short-term ease. Because you're tired of pretending, tired of explaining, tired of waking up knowing you're capable of more, but doing less. You don't need to wait for someone to push you. You need to push yourself. You need to look in the mirror and stop telling the same tired story. You need to stop buying your own excuses. That voice that keeps saying not today isn't protecting you. It's poisoning you. That voice doesn't serve you. That voice is stealing from you. And the only way to shut it down is to do the one thing it fears the most, the hard thing. You want momentum, do the hard thing. You want clarity, do the hard thing. You want confidence, do the hard thing. You want power, do the hard thing. Every answer you're looking for, every break through, every bit of growth, every piece of peace you've been chasing, it's on the other side of the thing you keep avoiding. The door will not open until you knock. And not a polite knock either. You've got to kick it in. You've got to get loud. You've got to show the world and yourself that you're done waiting, you're done hiding, you're done choosing comfort over calling. Because once you do it, once you finally stop avoiding and start acting, everything changes, not just because of what happens externally, but because of who you become. You become someone who doesn't run, someone who doesn't shrink, someone who doesn't delay their purpose just because it's uncomfortable. And that identity, that's the most valuable thing you can build. Because once you believe you can face anything, you can accomplish everything. You think the fear will go away before you move, but it won't. Fear fades when you move anyway. Courage shows up when you act, not before. You've got to step into the fire. You've got to walk through the pain. You've got to stop being afraid of what might happen and start being more afraid of what won't happen if you don't. What if you miss your window? What if 5 years go by and you're in the exact same place, still making excuses? What if the people who are waiting on your leadership, your voice, your vision, never get what they need because you kept choosing easy? That's what's really at stake, not just your goals, but your legacy. And legacies are not built in the shallow end. They're built in the deep, in the hard, in the moments where you could have avoided, but instead you confronted. So this is your moment. You already know what it is. That one thing, that terrifying, uncomfortable, necessary next step. Stop running from it. Stop building your life around avoiding it. Step toward it. Stare it down, do it. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Not when you're more confident, now. Because every second you wait is a second of power you give away. Do the hard thing. That one thing you've avoided for too long. Because that's the switch. That's the door. That's the turning point your entire life has been waiting on, and you are ready. You've always been ready. You just need to stop negotiating, stop waiting, and start doing. Do it now, do it scared, do it sloppy. Do it imperfect, but do it, because that's the thing that will change everything. You keep saying you want success. You talk about building a better life, reaching your potential, creating impact, breaking generational chains. But the truth is, the life you say you want, the one you picture in your mind, the one you dream about when no one's around, requires a version of you that you haven't become yet. And the reason you haven't become that person is simple. Your standards are too low. You tolerate too much. You make too many excuses. You give yourself permission to underperform, to skip the gym, to sleep in, to let emotions drive the car. You've convinced yourself that doing your best means whatever feels acceptable that day instead of what's actually required. You say you want greatness, but you operate in mediocrity. You say you want elite results, but you live with average effort. You tell the world you're committed, but the truth is you're only committed when it's convenient. Look around at your life. Look at your health, your habits, your income, your relationships. Every area of your life is reflecting the standards you've accepted. It's not a judgment, it's a mirror. What you see around you is what you've allowed, what you've permitted, what you've tolerated. You get what you demand of yourself, no more, no less. If you're not happy with where you are, you don't need a new plan. You need new standards. You've become too comfortable negotiating with yourself. You say, I'll do it tomorrow. I've had a long day. I deserve a break. And maybe that makes you feel better in the moment. Maybe it gives you relief, but it's stealing your future. Because every time you lower the bar, every time you move the goalposts, every time you tell yourself it's okay to show up small, you are training your brain to believe that low effort is acceptable. And over time, you stop even expecting more from yourself. That's why you feel stuck. That's why you're frustrated, not because you're not capable, but because your output doesn't match your capacity. You've got this enormous vision, this fire burning inside you, but your daily behaviors are dousing that flame. You're out here saying you want to change the world, but you can't even change your morning routine, and that's not because you're weak, it's because your standards don't match your goals. Listen, motivation is not enough. Passion is not enough. Goals are not enough. You can want something so badly that it keeps you up at night. But if you don't raise the minimum acceptable level of what you tolerate from yourself, none of it will matter. Because your life doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to what you demand, what you hold the line on, what you say, no matter what, this is who I am now. And it's not about being perfect. This isn't about punishing yourself. This is about alignment. It's about having the courage to call yourself out when your actions aren't in sync with your ambitions. It's about holding yourself to a higher standard even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching, because that's when the real work happens. That's when the identity is forged, when it's quiet, when you're tired, when you're alone. That's when your standards are either enforced or destroyed. And you already know this. Think about the moments in your life when you felt powerful, when you felt proud, when you felt like you were operating at your best. I guarantee those were the moments when you demanded more of yourself. When you pushed past comfort, when you didn't let the excuse win, you didn't lower the bar, you rose to it, and that's the version of you that's built for the life you want. But here's the key. You don't get that version by accident. You get there by drawing the line in the sand and saying, this is who I am now, this is how I show up every single day. You've got to raise your minimums. That means no more skipping workouts, no more snoozing the alarm, no more finishing projects, no more saying someday to dreams that need to be attacked today. You need to stop making space for average behavior and start making room for discipline, for hunger, for execution. You need to hold yourself to a standard that feels uncomfortable, because growth only lives on the other side of discomfort. Stop trying to fit your dreams into your current lifestyle. Your current lifestyle is what's keeping you from your dreams. Your standards have to rise above your circumstances. You've got to decide that who you used to be is no longer good enough for where you're going. The old you, the one who tolerates laziness, excuses, inconsistency, that person has to go. You've got to bury them, because that identity is a weight holding you down while you're trying to fly. Raising your standards isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming the real you, the one that's buried under layers of comfort and fear and bad habits. The one that's been waiting for permission to show up. And guess what? You don't need anyone else's permission. You just need your own decision. You need to decide right now that your life is worth more than what you've been giving it, that your dreams matter more than your excuses, that your purpose is bigger than your problems. You think raising your standards will be hard. Let me tell you what's hard: regret. Waking up 10 years from now knowing you had more in you but didn't demand it. That's hard. Watching someone else live the life you wanted because they were willing to do what you weren't. That's hard. Looking your kids in the eye one day and telling them, I gave up because it got difficult. That's unbearable. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can decide right now that the old version of you is done, that from this moment forward, you are a person of high standards, a person who shows up no matter how they feel, a person who finishes what they start, a person who does the hard thing first, a person who doesn't make excuses, A person who doesn't need external motivation because the internal standards are already non-negotiable. And here's the magic. Once you raise your standards, the universe starts responding, doors start opening, people start noticing, opportunities start flowing in your direction. Why? Because the world makes room for people who refuse to be denied. For people who demand more of themselves, who live with urgency, who carry themselves with excellence. You don't attract success by chasing it. You attract it by becoming the kind of person who is worthy of it. The life you say you want isn't complicated. It's just expensive, and the currency it requires isn't money. It's discipline, it's grit, it's sacrifice, it's consistency. And the only people who ever get it are the ones who decide that average is no longer acceptable. That just okay isn't good enough, that I tried, isn't a badge of honor. The only thing that matters is results. Results are built from standards, and standards are built from identity. So ask yourself, who are you really? Not who you say you are. Not who you post about online. Who are you when no one's watching? What are you doing at 5 a.m.? What are you doing when you're tired? What are you doing when everything goes wrong? Because that's who you are. And if that version of you doesn't match the life you want, change it. Don't wait. Don't negotiate. Just change it. You're not stuck. You're not broken. You're not unlucky. You've just been living below your potential because your standards have been too low, but that can change today. You can start showing up different. You can start demanding more of yourself. You can start building the habits that match your ambition. And when you do, your life will change. Not overnight, but inevitably. There's a version of you that's focused, consistent, powerful, relentless. That version is built, not born. It's forged through repetition, through daily decisions, through refusing to settle for anything less than excellence. You get to decide if you're going to be the kind of person who settles, or the kind of person who sets the standard for everyone around them. Raise your standards, raise your identity, raise your life. Now, not later, not when it feels better, not when it's more convenient, now. Because the gap between who you are and who you could be is only closed by one thing, standards. And today, you draw the line. Today, you raise the bar. Today, you become the person worthy of the life you want, not someday, today.